Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and welcome to Season 2 of Me for the Grinder, our series dedicated to Necromunda Dark Uprising Battle Reports. Me for the Grinder is a Necromunda campaign set in the final days of Hive Arcos, where Chaos, Xenos, and Order clash for control of a collapsing Hive City. And on today's episode, we are playing Battle Report number 15. This is a game that is fought between my two friends, Sister Serial and my little sister Shade. Sister Serial is bringing her game, Precinct 13, of the Palanite Enforcers, while Shade is bringing the blooded of the Helot Chaos Cultists who are dedicated as niche. Both of these gangs will be fighting in a meat harvest scenario where the Helot Chaos Cultists will try to kill as many Hive Dwellers as possible in order to take their flesh and to consume it, while the Palanite Enforcers try to defend those Hive Dwellers by shepherding them off the tabletop. So that being said, this video is a little bit more of a deeper dive, so I do have timestamps in the description box down below. That way you can click and navigate to the part of the video that interests you the most. So that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the rosters that both of my friends are bringing for this battle report.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
So the scenario for this one is meat harvesting. In this battle report, Sister Sarah will be the defender in this battle, while my sister Shade will be the attacker. Both gangs will of course have D3 plus 2 randomly selected fighters from both their gangs, and they have typical standard deployment on this battlefield as well. Now, the rule in effect is what's called a Bloody Harvest, where the Helot Chaos Cultists will be trying to attack 12 Hive Dwellers that are scattered about on the tabletop. If they manage to shoot one of these people, they have to roll a d6. On a 5 or 6, they remove the Hiver from the battlefield, otherwise they're perfectly fine. If they're hit by a melee attack in close combat on a 3, 4, or 5, or 6, they're removed from the tabletop. Otherwise, they move d6 inches away from the attacker in most cases. At the same time, the defender is trying to shepherd these people off the tabletop to protect them, and they can take a basic shepherd action action, which means they must pass leadership test, and if they do, the Hive Dweller will move 2d6 inches towards them, and if they're shepherded towards the deployment area within 2 inches of a defending fighter, they make it off the table. For the Helot Chaos Cultists, they earn 1 victory point for each Hive Dweller they manage to kill, while at the same time for the defenders, they get 2 victory points for every person they manage to shepherd off the tabletop. For the rewards for this one, the attacker earns D3 times 10 credits for each Hive Dweller they manage to kill, but the defender earns D6 times 10 credits for every Hive Dweller they manage to save. I'm sorry, I keep on saying Vault Dweller because I am a Fallout fan, so I do apologize for that. At the same time, each fighter that takes place in the battle earns 1 point of experience point. The victorious gang in this battle port earns D3 points of reputation, and if any gang bottles out, they lose 1 point of reputation. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. This is the battle plan that my friends will be playing on. My sister is deployed on the far side of the table, while Sister Serial is deployed on the near side of the table as well. As for battle plans on this one, I really couldn't tell you what the battle plans are because both of my friends are playing on this battle report. I'm just taking photos. But for the most part though, what I do want to draw your attention to is the sump bottom on this battlefield. If anybody falls into the sump, whether it be a Hive Dweller or a attacker or defender, they automatically go out of action. They'll need to roll up on the last ring table to see exactly what happens to them as well. So initiative tests are going to be extremely important in this battle. So with the battle plan over with, let's go ahead and talk about deployments. So starting off with Sister Serial's Precinct 13, in the back center that is Low-Key 99, who's a subjugated Palanite Sergeant. On the left-hand side is another one of her subjugated Palanite Patrolman named Mad Maddox, who's armed with a heavy concussion ram. On the right-hand side is Judge Herschel, another subjugated Palanite Patrolman who's armed with a sledge assault ram with auxiliary grenade launcher. On the far left side of our deployment area is Nate 111, who is a Palanite Patrolman who's armed with an armored undersuit, flak armor, as well as a concussion carbine, stub gun, as well as manacles. And right in front of him is Tracker 13, which is a hard case Cyber Mastiff. Meanwhile, across the tabletop is the Blooded for the Helot Chaos Cultists. In the center and the back, we have Drekar Burns, who's a cult disciple, is armed with a flamer. In front of him, of course, are 2 other fighters. Yaros, the Bullet Farm on the left-hand side. He's got an auto gun, auto pistol, frag grenades, and photo goggles. And right next on the right-hand side is Ashrock the Mad, who's armed with a bolt gun. And finishing up Shade's deployment on the left-hand side, that is Inigo, which is a Helot Chaos Cultist with a hotshot last gun with infrasight. In the center there is the Murder Crow, which is a Helot Cultist specialist with a long rifle with infrasight, as well on the right-hand side is Saros, who is a Helot Cultist with auto gun, auto pistol, frag grenades, as well as photo goggles. And that makes the deployment for the Blooded in this battle report. As for the Hive Dwellers, right on the left-hand side of the central terminal, there is a Hive Dweller there on the footbridge. There's another one on the second floor of the shanty, directly in the middle of the Helot Chaos Cultist deployment zone on the far right-hand side. There's another Vault Dweller on the right-hand side of the tabletop, on the top of the sniper's perch in the middle of the table. There are 2 Vault Dwellers, Hive Dwellers on the double walkway there on the far right-hand side of the tabletop. There are 2 more Hive Dwellers right directly on the roof of the Metro Terminal in the middle of the table. 2 Hive Dwellers on the left-hand walkway in the upper and lower sections of that walkway on the left-hand side. Then there's another Hive Dweller on the left-hand side on the far right, left-hand side of the top floor of the Oak office building on the left-hand side of the battlefield. And on the right-hand corner of the battlefield as well, there's 2 more Hive Dwellers, one on the very top floor, and I got a really bad angle on this one, but right below him you can kind of see the blue rim of the base is the second and the very last of the Hive Dwellers in this battle report. So with deployment over with, we go directly to top of turn number 1, and both of my friends roll off for priority to see which of them will be going first. So that takes us directly to the top of turn number 1, and the Helot Chaos Cultists get the initiative on this one, so Shade will be activating first. For Shade's very first activation, she activates 2 fighters with the group activation with Drekar Burns, which is the champion who's got the flamer there in the back, as well as Ashrock the Mad, which is the fighter armed with the bolt gun. Both those fighters do a double movement forward, going across the bridge directly towards that Hive Dweller who's there on the footbridge in front of them. Shade decided not to open fire with these guys because she didn't think that they'd be able to wound this guy and take him out, because you only have a 1/3 chance of actually doing that. So she decided she's going to try to charge these guys in forward instead in close combat because it's more of a sure bet. For there, Sister Serial does a group activation with Low-Key 99, who also does a group activation with Mad Maddox as well as Judge Herschel. And all 3 fighters move directly to the right-hand side, doing double movements directly to the top of the second floor with Low-Key 99, as well as I believe is Judge Herschel, who's the guy on the right-hand side. Meanwhile, Mad Maddox stays to the right-hand side, so that way they can shepherd any fighters directly towards him, so that way they can shepherd them off the tabletop and earn victory points for the Palanite Enforcers. For Shade's next activation, she activates the Helot Cultist Saros, and he does a move directly to the right-hand side towards the pontoon bridge. As you can see, Saros moves directly across the dock, directly onto the pontoon bridge, trying to flank his way around the right-hand side in order to engage the Palanite Enforcers. And for my friend Sincera's very last activation, she activates Nate 111, who's also partnered up with Tracker 13. And both fighters do a move activation directly up the walkway, directly to the second floor of the Oak Ridge building. And that pretty much makes up Sister Serial's activations for this turn. So the rest of the turn is dedicated to my sister Shade for her fighters, so she decides to activate the Murder Crow, who does a basic action to aim with his long rifle Inversight, and another basic action to open fire directly across the board at a Hive Dweller. Not only does he manage to hit and wound the Hive Dweller as well, he rolls a d6 and rolls a perfect 6, so because of that the Hive Dweller is now harvested, earning a victory point for the Helot Chaos Cultists. Shade then activates Yaros the Bullet Farmer, who's going to do a double movement forward. As you can see, it does a move activation across the Trestle Bridge, catching up with Ashrock the Mad as well as Drekor Burns. And for Shade's very last activation, she decides to activate her last Helot Cultist, Inigo. And Inigo does a double movement directly to the shanty on the right-hand side, climbing up all the way to the second floor, facing off against the Hive Dweller there on the second floor. And that pretty much makes up all the activations for this round. So that takes directly to the end phase of turn number 1. As you can see, one Hive Dweller has been captured so far. The Palanite Enforcers have moved to the right and left-hand side of the battlefield, trying to shepherd different fighters forward. Meanwhile, the Helot Chaos Cultists are starting to assault directly towards the middle, towards the Metro Tower, at the same time also sniping people on the left-hand side of the board with the Murder Crow. In the end phase, my friends do get reinforcements on this one. So the very first fighter that ends up being drawn up is Sledge Vasquez, who is a subjugated Palanite Sergeant with a grenade launcher as well. He shows up directly in the middle of the deployment zone for the Palanite Enforcers. As for the Blood of My Sister Ranley Jor's Core the Reaper, which is a cult disciple's arm with a plasma gun, it goes directly on the top of the sniper's perch, facing that Hive Dweller there on the top of it as well. So with the end phase over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and the Helot Chaos Cultists manage to get the initiative on this one, so once again my sister Shade will be going first. And for her very first activation, she activates Core the Reaper, which is her cult disciple who's armed with a plasma gun, who declares a charge to go up against directly the the Hive Dweller right in front of him. Core the Reaper goes directly in the back of the Hive Dweller, manages to take that fighter out no problem in close combat, also puts him out of action, so because that net a second victim for the Helot Chaos Cultists, giving them 2 victory points so far. Versus Serial's very first activation, she decides to activate Judge Herschel, who passed a leadership test in order to actually coax the Hive Dweller right in front of him in order to shepherd him across the battlefield. The leadership test is passed, and the Hive Dweller also goes off the building directly towards Judge Maddox on the bottom of the table, and because that he is shepherded off the tabletop, giving them 2 victory points for the very first victim that they managed to save. Shade then activates Inigo, who declares a charge directly against the Hive Dweller right across from her. Inigo manages to charge directly into the Hive Dweller, manages to take him out of action as well in close combat, making a 3rd victim for them being harvested, and at the same time also achieving another victory point on top of that. For Serial's next activation, she activates Low-Key 99, who does a simple action to go up directly to the top floor of the office building and does a basic action to do a shepherding action directly towards the Vault Dweller in front of her. The Hive Dweller does drop down to the second floor. Unfortunately for Sister Serial, though, as she tries to activate her next fighter, which is Judge Herschel, he does try to do a basic action to try to shepherd the fighter over, but unfortunately for Sister Serial, though, she fails the leadership test for that character, so the Vault Dweller is just staying right there on the second floor of the office building. For Shade's next activation, she decides to do a group activation with Drekor Burns as well as Yaros the Bullet Farmer. Yaros the Bullet Farmer charges directly into the Hive Dweller and takes him out of action in close combat, earning another victory point for the gang. Meanwhile, as Drekor Burns actually does a move activation across the walkway, making his way directly to the central tower in the middle of the battlefield. In response, Serial activates Nate 111 as well as Tracker 13. Tracker 13 does a move activation across the bridge, heading directly towards the walkway there where the other two Hive Dwellers can be found. Meanwhile, Nate 111 does try to take a basic action, aim, and open fire with his concussion carbine down directly at Sakar, who's across from him on the left-hand side of the battlefield. But unfortunately, though, he misses his shot, so nothing much really happens there. Meanwhile, Shade then activates the Murder Crow, does a basic action to once again aim with the long rifle with the Inversight, and another basic action, open fire directly at a Hive Dweller who's on the walkway on the left-hand side of the tabletop. Now he does manage to hit the Vault Dweller, but doesn't actually wound him. But what really puts this fighter out of action, however, is that this Hive Dweller does have to fall back because of knockback. Gets pushed an inch off the board and falls directly into the drink down below. So because that, he does automatically go out of action, netting another victory for the Helot Chaos Cultists. Cicero then activates Sledge Vasquez, who then proceeds to do a double movement directly to the left-hand side, crossing that border walk directly towards the office building on the left-hand side of the tabletop. Meanwhile, Shade activates Ashrock the Mad, who is the Helot Chaos Cultist arm with a bolt gun. He does a basic action so that way he can aim with his bolt gun, getting +1 to hit, opens fire directly across the board at the left-hand walkway with the other Hive Dweller can be found. And here's a close-up of his intended target there on the left-hand side of the battlefield. He does manage to hit and to wound this fighter 3 times and puts this fighter directly out of action, harvesting this fighter and also earning the Helot Chaos Cultist another victory point. The very last activation that Shade does, she activates Saros. Saros actually takes a basic action to aim with his hotshot last gun, and another basic action open fire directly at Tracker 13. However, he does miss his shot, so because that Tracker 13 is perfectly fine, and that pretty much ends turn number 2 for this one. So that takes directly to the end phase. Here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, the Helot Chaos Cultists are doing a really good job of taking out these fighters with some impressive long-range shooting for the most part, as well as some close combat. Meanwhile, the Precinct 13 Enforcers are struggling to try to capture and to save as many of these Hive Dwellers as they possibly can. And with the end phase starting, we go directly to reinforcements. Shade randomly draws Zekertilos, her Cult Witch, who also has his Chaos Familiar Jetsam. Unfortunately for her, though, when she rolled to see exactly where she could put this guy, she failed the roll-off. So because of that, my friend Cicero decided to put these two fighters on a small little rubble island on the far right-hand side of the battlefield, kind of isolating them from everything. At the same time, my friend's sister Cicero managed to draw Judge Sulaco, who's one of her Palanite Patrolman armed with a concussion carbine, and she won the roll-off to determine where this fighter goes, so she put him directly in the left-hand side of her deployment area. And because of the end phase of turn number 2, the Hive Dwellers begin to wander. As you can see, one of the fighters actually drops down to the 3rd floor of the Metro Terminal Tower. Another Hive Dweller on the far right-hand side of the battlefield makes his way directly to the right-hand side of that walkway, heading directly towards the edge. Another Hive Dweller who momentarily drops to the floor below actually just kind of shuffles a little bit to the left 2 inches, so he's perfectly fine. Another Vault Dweller makes his way across the walkway directly from the ruined structure in the middle of the table directly towards that walkway there on the left-hand side. And lastly, the Vault Dweller who is on top of the Metro Terminal walks across that game plane directly towards that ruined office tower there on the back side of the tabletop. So with that, we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and once again, the Helot Chaos Cultists do manage to secure the initiative on this one, so my little sister will be going first. And for her very first activation, she activates Core the Reaper, her disciple who's armed with a plasma gun. He takes a basic action to aim with his plasma gun, so that way he gets +1 to hit, and shooting at open fires, shooting twice with the rapid fire dice on his plasma gun. Bolts of plasma go ripping through the air and go directly into the Vault Dweller who's on top of that walkway there in the back end of the table. And as you can imagine, the bolts had no problem putting him out of action as well, and also ending another victory point for the Helot Chaos Cultists. Sister Sarah then activates Judge Herschel, who does a leadership test and manages to pass in order to shepherd the Hive Dweller above him to come down. The leadership test is good, so the Vault Dweller does go directly towards Judge Herschel, who then also gets shepherded off the tabletop, earning another 2 victory points for the Palanite Enforcers. My sister Shade then decides to activate the Murder Crow, does a basic action to aim with his long rifle, and another basic action open fire with the infrasight directly into Tracker 13. As you can see, he does manage to hit Tracker 13, but he fails to wound the Cybermassive. Unfortunately, because he's on a walkway, he does need to take an initiative test. Unfortunately, Tracker 13 does fail his initiative test, so he goes falling directly into the sump. He rolls an out-of-action result and rolls Convalescence for his lasting injury, so Tracker 13 will make a full recovery at the end of the battle. Sister Sarah then decides to activate Low-Key 99, her subjugator sergeant, who does a leadership test in order to do a shepherding action to the Hive Dweller who's on the walkway down below from him. He managed to pass his leadership test, so because of that, the Hive Dweller does walk across a bridge directly to where Judge or Maddox is located at. Shay then activates Sakar, who does a basic action to aim with his hotshot last gun, and another basic action open fire directly at Nate 111, who's across the board from him. But unfortunately for him, though, he does miss his shot, so nothing much really happens there. Sister Sarah then activates Mad Maddox, who does a leadership action to actually shepherd the Hive Dweller right next to him and manage to pass his leadership test. The Hive Dweller does go across the board directly towards the waiting arms of Judge Herschel, who then also shepherds this fighter off the board as well, adding another 2 victory points for Precinct 13. Unfortunately, my friends did make a mistake on this one. Nate 111 does get activated next. He shouldn't have been activated this turn because it should have gone to my sister Shade, but that's the way the game kind of played out, so we're going to report it that way. So Nate 111 gets activated next, who does a simple action to go directly towards that window in front of him. So he moves up to the window in front of him and actually takes a basic action, open fire with his concussion carbine directly down into Saros, who's down below on that pontoon bridge. Unfortunate for Nate 111 though, his shot does miss, and because of that, to add insult to injury, he does get an ammo roll on that one, so because he's currently out of ammo for his concussion carbine. Shade then activates Zekratilos, who does a basic action in order to use his Dark Shield ability, improving his armor save by 1 by using his psychic abilities, and he takes a basic action, open fire with his pistol directly into the vault door that's right above him on that walkway. Not only does he manage to hit the vault door, but he also managed to wound the vault dweller as well, so because of that, that fighter is now harvested, earning another victory point for the Helot Chaos Cultists. So Sister Serial then activates Judge Sulaco, and Judge Sulaco does a moon over moon across the little island there, heading directly towards that walkway down below, so that way he can cross that bridge and start climbing the metro terminal in the middle of the tabletop. From there, Shade decides to activate Drekor Burns, who is the champion who's armed with a flamer. And Drekor Burns does a double movement action in order to climb up directly to the 3rd floor of the metro terminal tower. Meanwhile, Sister Serial then activates Sledge Vasquez, who's going to do a double action to move directly towards Nate 111. And as you can see, the Palanite Sergeant does move directly towards that same window, so that way he can start opening fire with his grenade launcher down to Sakar, who's on the pontoon bridge down below. Shade then activates Yaros the Bullet Farmer, who's going to do a double movement directly towards the left-hand side of the battlefield. As you can see, he walks down directly across the footbridge, heading directly towards the office buildings on the left-hand side of the deployment area. And because all the Palanite Enforcers have been activated, the rest of the turn is dedicated to the Helot Chaos Cultists. So my sister Shade then activates Ashrok the Mad. Ashrok the Mad does a double series of movements forward, going across that footbridge, heading directly towards the metro terminal in the center of the battlefield. Shade then activates Inigo for her very last activation. And Inigo does a double set of movements to go directly next to the Murder Crow in order to, I believe, to provide some support fire for some long-range shooting, but that's where Shade basically puts her last fighter. And with that, that takes us directly to the end phase. As you can see, not very many Hive Dwellers are left on the tabletop. As weird as it may sound, Precinct 13 did a really good job this time around, actually shepherding a lot of Hive Dwellers off the battlefield, really closing the gap between the victory points on this one. The next turn is going to be extremely important to see which of these gangs will be victorious in the end. During the end phase, more reinforcements arrived, first of all being Yago the Thrice Cursed, who is the cult demagogue for the Blooded, as well as his familiar, which is Flotsam. Unfortunately for my sister Shade, though, when she rolled to see exactly where this guy would be deployed, she failed the roll-off, so because that, Sister Serial got to determine where this fighter goes instead. So because that, Sister Serial decided to place this fighter right on the same island that Zekratilos is located at, isolated from everybody else and unable to do much of anything. At the same time, Lucky Titus also shows up as well with his Enforcer shotgun, and he deploys right there on the far right hand side for Sister Serial. So with reinforcements over with, the Hive Dwellers now begin to start wandering across the battlefield. Unfortunately, this Hive Dweller decides to make his way directly to the friendly face of Drekor Burns, who's right in front of him, because nothing says I'm here to help than a fierce looking guy covered in skulls and spikes and wielding a flamethrower. The Electromacer looking Hive Dweller decides to drop down from the top floor directly to the walkway, makes his way directly to the left hand side and directly to the Palanite Enforcers. And with that, it takes us directly to the top of turn number 4, and once again the Helot Chaos Cultists do manage to secure the initiative on this one, so because of that my little sister will have priority, so her gang will be activating first. So for Shade's very first activation, she does a group activation with Yago the Thrice Curse as well as Zekratilos. Zekratilos is a basic action to once again use Dark Shield in order to give +1 armor save to both himself as well as towards Yago the Thrice Curse as well as their familiars. He does try to take a shooting action with his pistol directly towards the Electromacers above them, but unfortunately he missed. Yago the Thrice Curse, however, takes a basic action to aim with his bolt gun and another basic action open fire with it directly at that Electromacer looking Hive Dweller. Yago the Thrice Curse managed to hit the Electromacer 3 times with his bolt gun and managed to wound all 3 times, and because of the Electromacer, of course, is harvested, earning another victory point for the Blooded. So with that, Sister Serial decides to activate Low-Key 99, the Palanite Sergeant, who's also armed with a grenade launcher. He does a basic action to aim with his grenade launcher and another basic action to open fire with a frag grenade directly onto that island where both Zekratilos as well as Yago the Thrice Curse are located at. And as you can see, the blast timber landed directly right on top of both Yago the Thrice Curse as well as for Zekratilos. However, They both walk away unscathed because their psychic familiars managed to save them with that ward save, so because they're perfectly fine, they don't even get pushed off the island. So those familiars, man, they only cost 25 credits, but they are worth their weight in gold every single time. And for Shade's very last activation, she activates Draco Burns, who does a basic action open fire with his flamethrower directly at the Vault Dweller that was in front of him. Not only does he set that Vault Dweller on fire, but that Vault Dweller also had to run because of the blaze condition. He goes running right out the door directly onto the ground in front of him, and he goes out of action as well, netting another and the very last victory point for this battle report. So with that being said, that takes directly to the end of the battle report with a victory for the Helot Chaos Cultists. And with that being said, we're going to go directly to the post-game with the after-action report because this battle report is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Alright, so now it's time for the after-action report, starting off with Sister Serial's gang, Precinct 13 of the Palanite Enforcers. Unfortunately, they did lose this battle report, so let's talk about exactly what happened to him in the post-game. For injuries, luckily for Sister Serial, only Tracker 13 was injured in this battle report, but he got a convalescence lasting injury, so he makes a full recovery with no complications at all. For advancements, unfortunately for Sister Serial, none of her fighters advanced for this time, so because of that, we can skip that portion. From her territories, for her Precinct Fortress, she managed to recruit 2 new Palanite Patrolmen. Those guys' names are Judge Yvonne as well as Parker Echo 1. And the reason why she was able to recruit both of those fighters is because of the Fleeting Utopia Campaign Week event that's taking place, which means that all territories double the benefits that they get from the territories that they hold. At the same time, she was also able to manage to drum up 20 credits from that territory. And for her Fungal Sprawl, none of her fighters actually got the Toxin trait on their melee weapons, but she did manage to get 20 credits from that, as well as 80 credits from the Ashgate territory she controls. For her Manufactorum level of territory, she managed to secure 2 photolumens for Judge Yvonne as well as for Parker Echo 1, at the same time also managed to drum up 60 credits from that territory, and unfortunately because she lost to the Blooded so badly, she did lose her Wastelands territory to them. For the trading post, she did manage to drum up 180 credits from her territories as well as 140 credits from the scenario, saving 3 Hive Dwellers in total, and she also combined that with the 40 credits in her stash, gave her 360 credits in total. She spent a vast majority of these credits, only leaving 5 credits that she placed directly into her stash. With her credits for Judge Yvonne, she managed to purchase that character a Enforcer bolt gun, which also comes with armored undersuit, flak armor, as well as manacles, and there's the stats there on the left-hand side. For Parker Echo 1, the Palanite Patrolman, she did manage to purchase an Enforcer shotgun for that fighter, as well as the armor undersuit, flak armor, stub gun, as well as manacles for this judge. At the same time, on the left-hand side, you can see his statistics. However, Sister Serial did spend most of her money on was on ABC Warrior 13 Bravo, another Sanctioner Patterned Automata. She spent 245 credits for this guy. He's got light carapace armor, a passive for Assault Claw, as well as a grenade launcher array that fires photon flash grenades. It also has an SLHG Patterned Assault Ram, as well as the Automatic Repair Special Rules, Mobile Bulwark Special Rule, as well as the Got Your 6 skill as well. Now, if you'll notice in this picture, there is a picture of an Ambot, and the reason why is because I have not yet been able to had time to paint up the 2 Sanctioners for my friends gang. Unfortunately for me, I'm the only guy who really paints up the miniatures that my friends actually use in our campaign settings, so it's going to take me a little bit of time before I'm able to get the suitable miniatures for those and also to paint those up for the gang. In the end, Sister Serial was able to gain an additional point of reputation for the campaign week, bringing her grand total to 9 points of reputation in total. Her new record now is at 2 wins and 2 losses, and her new gang rank now is at 3,665 points. So up next, let's go and talk about my sister Shade's gang, the Blooded of the Helot Chaos Cultists. So for her, she did not suffer any injuries in this battle report, and for the Dark Ritual, Draco Burns was selected to be the vessel for the Dark Ritual, so he managed to earn 5 experience points for that, and they also managed to maintain the blessings of the Architect of Fate, so because of that, they're still aligned with Sneech. For advancements, Diego the Thrice Cursed leveled up to level 1 and rolled the Commanding Presence skill and also increased his credit value by 20 credits in value, so because of that, this fighter can now do larger group activations. Core of the Reaper, the Cult Disciple armed with the Plasma Gun, also leveled to level 2, earning +1 to his Ballista skill and also increasing his credit value by 20 credits in total, so now this guy has Ballista skill 2, making him even deadlier with that Plasma Gun. Draco Burns also levels up to level 1 as well, and also increases his toughness by 1 point, making him toughness 4, and also increasing his credit value by 30 credits. The Murder Crow is also the gang specialist, also up to level 1, and also chooses the Overwatch skills. That way they can interrupt enemy activations at any time, and also increases their value by 20 credits in total. Anigo also lowered to level 1, and at the same time has to roll on the Ganger experience chart because it's randomly chosen, earns 1+1 to his willpower, so he's now willpower 6, and also increases his credit value by 5 credits. And Yaros the Bullet Farmer also rolled up on the table as well, leveling up to level 1, and he rolled +1 to his movement characteristics, so it also increased his value to 10 credits in total, and now he has movement 6 inches. From the Shade's territories, from her Chaos Vein, she managed to recruit 2 new Helot Chaos Cultists named the Mirror Twins. One's called Crimson, the other one's called Cerulean, and she also managed to drum up 30 credits from that territory. From her Hab level, she managed to earn 5 points reputation as well as 50 credits, and from her Wall Outpost, she also managed to drum up 60 credits from that territory. From her Thermal Vent, she was able to increase her stash by 80 credits, and from her Slave Pit territory, she earned 3 experience points for Yaros the Bullet Farmer, as well as 2 experience points for Saros. She also managed to get 50 credits from that territory as well. And from her Wasteland territory, she managed to capture that from Precinct 13, and at the same time also increase 20 credits to her stash from that territory. For the Trading Post, she managed to secure 160 credits from her scenario, managed to claiming 9 Hive Dwellers in the process of doing so. Also managed to drum up 290 credits from her territories, and when combined with the 5 credits she had in her stash, gave her 455 credits in total. With those 455 credits, she spent most of them except for 5 credits, in which case she then put them directly back in the stash. With her credits for Crimson the Mirror Twin, one of her Helot Chaos Cultists that she managed to recruit, she purchased this guy mesh armor, a chain sword, a last pistol with a hotshot last pack, as well as frag grenades. And for Cerulean, the other Mirror Twin, she equipped this fighter exactly the same way, with mesh armor, chainsaw, and last pistol with hotshot last pack, as well as frag grenades as well. However, most of her credits, all 250 credits of them, went to recruiting a warp horror called Grushka, as you can see over here as well. As you can see on the left-hand side are the stats for Grushka, the warp horror. It's got 2 horrific appendages as well as undulating skin, which means it takes 1 point less damage whenever it gets attacked. It's also got the terrifying special rule, as well as the Warped Innocence special rule, and it also has the Nerves of Steel skill. In the end, my sister was able to drum up 1 point reputation for the campaign week, as well as 3 from the scenario and 5 from her territories, giving her a grand total of 22 points reputation in total. Her new record now is at 2 wins and 1 loss, and her new gang rank now is at 3,300 points. So that's going to do it for this, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blog.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's going to do it for this week, guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.